Hi everyone, this is BritSimon. I'm back from my trip. I took a trip over the weekend which was due to start on Friday night, and Judge Mehta changed my plans a little bit. So I had hoped that we would either have a judgment earlier in the week and that by the weekend I would be able to take a weekend off, or if it didn't come on the Friday, then it wasn't going to come until Tuesday because it was a 3-day weekend over here in the States with Labor Day. As it was, he kind of messed up my plans at the last minute, but I'm thrilled at the order, so I won't complain too much. It's what we asked for in a way. It didn't give us everything, obviously, but it gave us quite a lot. Now, as you'll have seen, I created a couple of videos which were more or less instant reactions to what I was seeing. I also created a couple of blog posts with instructions on what people should do next, how to proceed based on which scenarios they're in. All of those were very instant. Those were, very instant reactions, right, from me. I hadn't had a chance at that point to read the whole order. And actually I've been traveling over the weekend, so I actually didn't have that much chance either over the weekend. So my position is still largely based on gut reaction, but I haven't seen anything contradicting my positions from any of the lawyers involved or any of the legal experts that comment on these things throughout the industry or throughout the DV world, as it were. So so I'm pretty much confident that what I'm going to be telling you in this video is going to be accurate and actionable, and so hopefully this is going to take you in the right path. Okay, so we need still to think about things in the 5 groups of people. We have to do that because there's going to be a different reaction, different path forward for each of those. But there are also some constants that are going to be the case. So already I've got hundreds of emails, predictably, and messages to respond to where I'd given instruction on, here's what to do next. And some people have taken that advice, or they've done their own thing, and they're telling me now that the embassy has responded with various forms of, ranging from yes, we're about to change something, to no, that order doesn't mean anything to me, I don't care, Trump is still the boss. Amazingly. If, by the way, you're that particular guy that I think in Togo that suggested that, I hope there's a special place in hell for you because of the way you're exercising your stupid powers. So honestly, I've got no time for people like that. But but let's talk about the timing and let's talk about the reality, right? So it was a long weekend this weekend. So Judge Mehta issued this order late on Friday night. It was after the time that KCC would have been working, and they wouldn't have been working on the Monday. So the first time that they possibly even would have known about the order is this morning, Tuesday morning. It's now around about 7 o'clock, I believe, on Tuesday night in California. So they've had the order for only a few short hours. The same thing with the Department of State. And the embassies, to think that the embassies are sitting there watching the outcome for, of Judge Mehta's case, for what they should do next, to think that 200 embassies around the world are going to know exactly what actions they should be taking on Tuesday morning or Monday morning or whatever, is naive, let's be honest. So there's a process here. Now, the instructions I gave about what to do next weren't meant to be a one-shot deal and here's the only time it can be worked. It might take a few days for these things to actually go through the system. So what I expect was that the Department of State and KCC would have confirmed today, and they'll begin to form a plan. They may have a plan already, they may be able to communicate to the embassies today, but I doubt it. I think it's more likely that we'll see some sort of communication going out from Department of State to embassies, perhaps tomorrow, maybe tonight, but perhaps tomorrow. And same thing with KCC. I don't think we're going to see much action from them until they've had a chance to digest what the order means to them and how they're going to operate over this next few weeks, right? They were very clearly in the order told to do some things, particularly for named plaintiffs, and I want to come back to that later because that's an important point. There is going to be a different sort of approach for people who've been named than people that were not named, and I'll also clarify about the AILA case, about who was not named, who's a named part of that case. So there's a different approach. So if you weren't named on any of the lawsuits, right, you're in a bigger bucket that I would like to address, right? And for those people, if you're not named and you're in group 1, which is so let's go through our groups again, right? So we got group 1 are the people that had already been issued visas and those visas have expired, right? Group 2 were people that were on AP for one reason or another because they'd had their interview earlier this year in January, February, March or whatever, and just as the COVID closures came down, their case was still in AP. They may even have been told that their case was approved, but they never got their visas. That means they're in AP. So all of those cases are AP, right? Group 4 is if you have received the ready for scheduling email after you sent documents. It doesn't mean that you sent documents and you got a confirmation saying thanks, we received your documents. It's a very specific email that says congratulations, we've received all your documents, you're ready for process, you're ready for scheduling. It's very clear. It's on my blog. It's a very distinct email. And then group 5 is the people that didn't receive the ready for scheduling email. Maybe they didn't send the documents, maybe they did, whatever. It doesn't really matter in one sense. You're in group 5. It's the same bucket of people whether you sent documents or not. So okay, so for group 1, people who had visas already issued and those visas expired, those people should get instant relief from the order. That means that the embassies should be able to issue those, even without an interview. They should be able to reissue those visas. They will need a new medical, and they will need to pay the fees again. Okay, the $330 per person. So it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be painful. But you're comparing this to a green card, which is a life-changing opportunity. So feel free to not go for it. But if I was in that position, I would spend the extra money. Okay. Now, if you're in the Schengen area, you may still be affected by the ban, but the Schengen area ban or the UK ban as well. But really, that would be contrary to what the judge has talked about. He has said very clearly that DV lottery candidates could quite probably get a TRO, a restraining order. They could get injunctive relief if the government persists with this concept that not allowing entry means they don't have to issue visas. And clearly people in the Schengen area could get some benefit from getting their visas reissued. You're allowed to get the visa reissued within the fiscal year, so that's by September 30th, when there's exceptional circumstances like this that are beyond your control. So it's a clearly established part of the law. It's already there. There's nothing difficult to prove about it. It's a simple procedure, and indeed some embassies all the way through have been saying, yeah, fair enough, we'll reissue those visas, no problem. They did it, and if you see the number of visas issued over the last few months, we can see they've issued a handful of cases in various embassies. So we know they're doing it, right? But my guess is it's going to take clear instructions from Department of State to these embassies, particularly the ones in the Schengen area or others that are behaving the same way, to know for sure that they can reissue those visas, right? So it's going to take a few days for them to work through that system. So don't panic if you're in that situation. You have 3 to 4 weeks still. It's the 8th. What have we got? Just over 3 weeks. So there's time. Okay, so you don't need to panic. You don't need to get worked up. This is I'm confident that you've got a good chance. Nothing is certain, right? Please understand, nothing is certain at this point, but you've got a good chance. What would that mean for you? You would get a new visa in September. that as long as you'd retaken the medical, could be valid until 6 months after the date of the medical. So we're talking dates in March, perhaps. And between now and March, perhaps the Schengen area restriction is down. The ban, the ban, or the lawsuit rather, against the ban can't take the restriction down. So you have to wait until that restriction period is over. But frankly, 6 months from now, there's a good chance that that restriction would be gone. So it's a gamble, right? You can get a new visa, you can wait and see what happens, and in the meantime, if you're smart, you'll go to one of the other countries that is not affected by that ban. You'll hang out for 14 days, drink Mai Tais on the beach somewhere, and enter from that country, enter the USA from that country, and hey presto, you've got your LPR status, right? So that's if you're in Group 1. If you're in Group 2, you don't need an interview at all. You don't need to even pay fees, but you probably should get a medical in order to benefit from the same timeline that I'm explaining for Group 1, right? So you, in that case, would contact the embassy, ask them to reschedule your, ask them to follow through on your case, and ask them, do you want a new medical? Because I would like the maximum possible time. And again, you could be in the Schengen area, you could be affected by all the same things I just talked about for Group 1. You could be in an area where travel is not possible at the moment. There are some countries which won't allow travel in or out of the country. And there's going to be difficulties. There could be a shortage of flights, availability of flights, etc. It could be difficult. And you certainly can't transit, by the way, through, for example, a country in Africa, go through London or go through Paris or whatever to get to the USA. You'll screw yourself up. So you've got to make travel arrangements that don't go through an area which is affected by the Schengen ban. So if you're an AP and your AP has completed, your embassy could issue the visa straight away because of the lawful order by Judge Mehta. That's a tremendous benefit. And just for that, there's at least 1,000 people, I would say, maybe 2,000. I have to check the numbers. 1,000 for sure, but I'll check the numbers. But there's at least 1,000 people that can benefit from that. So that's worthwhile. Okay, Group 3. Group 3 are the people that had visa interviews cancelled at the last minute. So those people will need an interview, and for some people it should be possible to get an interview. The embassy is going to have to cooperate, right? And they may not cooperate. You'll need cooperation from the embassy, purely because they won't understand yet that they are supposed to treat the diversity cases as mission critical emergency cases, and they may simply be difficult about it. They may say, well, we're doing the bare minimum of work. But even those embassies that are closed, they're not really closed. They're closed to normal appointments. They're closed to standard visa services, but they're not closed. They're generally open. I think I can't think of any embassies that are fully closed because of COVID. There's various embassies that have been closed for other situations, such as Baghdad or Venezuela, or these embassies where there are localized problems, but not for COVID. So so they have been processing US citizen cases all along on an emergency basis, and they need to get the message either from you or from the government that they are supposed to be treating a case in that mission critical way. So I suggested a format for the letter that you could send to them by email, or you can contact them. And some embassies, I was hoping some embassies would react to that straight away, and a couple have. But more embassies have said, well, we're waiting for instructions. And that's not a big surprise. If you were in their position, you would wait for instructions from your boss, Department of State, as well, right? And so it might take a few days. But as I say, I'm expecting KCC or Department of State to send cables out to the embassies within a couple of days from now, and for those embassies to start getting the message that they can schedule those interviews. Your case is already at the embassy. They don't need anything from KCC, but they do need to reschedule the interview. You need to get your medical, and they will have to request a visa number. So you need to get a move on with that, and try and get that within the next week to 10 days, because in the last part of the month it's going to become very difficult. KCC are going to have to be sending out visa numbers to embassies, and it's going to become difficult. So the volume is always going to be a challenge here. So do all you can to push the embassy. Now, a lot of people have been coming back to me, more or less the same people every single time, saying, I've done this, what do I do now? I've done this, what do I do now? And I tell them, and I try and keep my patience as much as I can. But you have to understand, you've got to fight for your own case right now. Okay? So understand what I'm telling you, interpret what I'm telling you, and say to yourself, I'm going to go and fight for my once in a lifetime chance. Okay? So don't wait on me to tell you something. Go do it. Do whatever you have to do to push your case. I've sent a number of messages today when I was traveling back, and I've said, keep pushing, keep trying, right? And I really mean it. You've got to push. This is your green card. Take that opportunity. Don't just sit there and accept it when someone says they can't be bothered to arrange your interview. Get on with it. Push them. Now, be polite. Nobody needs to be disrespectful. But you need to tell people, look, you've had a lawful order from Judge Mehta. He's a federal judge. He's empowered to tell you what to do because he's made a judgment against the Department of State, against Secretary of State Pompeo, against Donald Trump. It filters down from them, so it does apply to every embassy, whether they understand that or not. It applies to them. That's the law of the land. The federal judge has that ability. So, they need to cooperate with you, and you need to push. Okay, that's group 3. Group 4, I initially wrote a response of what to do next, saying group 4 and group 5 were almost hopeless because of the timing. And I modified things for group 4 a little bit. I edited that just before I traveled. I can't remember exactly, excuse me, quick sip of water, but can't remember exactly how I phrased it, but I modified it because there are a couple of things you can do with group 4. You can push KCC. KCC will be scheduling some cases over the next few days on an emergency basis. Now, I've seen them do this before, but never in volume, not like the sort of volume that we have. So there's no doubt that there's going to be there's limited resources at KCC. They've got contract staff, and they're going to do the best they can. But there's only so many hours in a day, and it's just not practical to think that they can keep everyone happy, right? They are going to try and condense into a very short time what they would normally do over several weeks. So it's just, you've got to be realistic. So here's what I think you can do with group 4 cases. You can contact your local embassy. If you're in one of the embassies that has a very few number of cases, and if that embassy is open or agrees with you and me that DV lottery cases can be handled on a mission critical basis, you can proactively book an appointment with that embassy. Some embassies want you to register with a courier and book the appointment through them. Just book an appointment. It doesn't matter what visa class it's for, just book an appointment, or speak to them and see if you can get an appointment booked. Again, you need to push, right? Book an appointment. That's step 1. Step 2 is to contact KCC. You'll have to wait for a day or two until they've got their policies in place. And what I'm suggesting is that you'll be able to contact KCC, who would normally schedule the interview with the embassy, but you're going to say, I have my interview appointment with the embassy. All you need to do, KCC, is send my case to the embassy. Please do that, right? That's less work for KCC if you've done the legwork of arranging your interview. You're only asking them to, I'm being a bit glib here, but press a button, because it's all electronic. They don't have to send a package out or mail something in the postal service, nothing like that. They press a button and the files are sent electronically to the embassy. So if you've got an interview date already, and try and set it up as quickly as possible. Once you've done all of that, then you've got a few days to have your medical, and maybe you can pull that one, together. So there's a possibility. You can also chase KCC, and they may say, look, we're arranging the interviews, we're in control of that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they say that, but do what you can to approach it from both sides, right? If they say, well, we arrange the appointments, fine, let them arrange the appointments, and you can cancel the other appointment. But you're getting some cooperation from the embassy, and some of those embassies will be on your side. Some of them, I've seen them do extraordinary things before. Some of them will do a tremendous job of getting on with things. And KCC are going to be under pressure. But again, they'll do what they can, right? So I'm hoping that you'll just, in various creative ways, do what you can to contact them with the wording of the email that I suggested, or contact the embassy and just enlist their help, right? Okay, group 5 now. Group 5 are in a difficult spot. Unless you're one of the named plaintiffs, there really is little time left for them to do anything within the time frame we've got. So you would need an extension of the year, and if you're non-named, it's going to be very difficult, right? Even for named plaintiffs, it's going to be difficult. But for named plaintiffs, I can see a little more possibility for people even in Group 5 if they're named. Groups 1 through 4, if they're named, are going to have, if they're named on the cases, are going to have a little bit more pushing going on for them, because first and foremost, Judge Mehta saw those as a particular group and is clearly setting things up to handle named cases differently to non-named cases if he chooses. And here's what I mean by that. So I'll just quickly switch to this other tack for a minute and I'll come back to Group 5. So in the court case, he declined the request from the AILA to treat their case as a class action. So for diversity cases, there were seven named cases on the AILA lawsuit, and only those 7 named are the named cases for the AILA case, right? For the Cut case, for the Curtis Morrison case, for all the other cases, etc., all of those other ones, they had long lists of named people, but the AILA treated things as a class action and asked for certification, and the judge denied that certification. And I think it's significant that he did that. He could have allowed that to go ahead, but he sat on that. And one of the reasons for that is, if he gets to the point on the 25th where he says he wants to extend for some people, it's going to be a lot easier for him in law to say, here's John Smith, here's Mary Jones, or whatever. They're people that are named on the lawsuits. So I'm telling you, government, to set aside those visas for those people to be issued at a later date. But it's not, it will be dated as September 30th. So it's an extension without really an extension. It's a way of getting I don't want to use the word backdated because that's not technically what it is, but it is it's setting aside the visa to be used later, and that's easier if it's a named case. To imagine that Judge Mehta, on the other hand, would set aside 40,000 visas or 30,000 visas for an unnamed group of people, I think is unrealistic. He could do it. I'm not saying it won't happen, but I don't think that should be anyone's expectation. So I think particularly for Group 5, and possibly for Group 4, and maybe even for Group 3, there are certainly still significant risks. I mean, even for Groups 1 and 2, there's risks. Until that visa is in your hand, and until you're able to actually get on a plane and board it and get to the USA, you're not done. You're not safe, right, in this particular situation, because, Trump could get re-elected again. I saw someone made that comment and everyone got upset with him. He's absolutely right. Trump could get elected again. There are enough morons in this country to go and re-elect this man, even though he's killed 188,000 people and behaved like a complete idiot for 3 years. Trump could get re-elected, because some people think he's doing a great job because they believe the economy is doing great, which is nonsense. But anyway, so he could get elected again, and he could turn around and block us all again in January, right? He can do whatever he wants if he's still the president. So until President Biden is in place, if that's what happens, anything can happen. So it isn't negative to talk about those possibilities, it's realistic. So, let's be adult. When someone says that on my blog or whatever, let's be adult about it and realize, yeah, that could happen, right? And so a lot of this then would become for nothing, okay? Because people would find they're still blocked by the Schengen ban or whatever, and so, some people would still be blocked. But some will have got through, and that's always been the point I've been trying to make to you. I didn't think I could save 40,000 people. I didn't think it was possible. Curtis Morrison has always held the belief, at least he's talked about holding the belief, shall we say, Curtis, that he could do these things, right? That he could achieve these things, and the AIA lawyers were also, they were determined, etc. And Charles Cook determined, all very strong, very capable, very, very smart lawyers, and they said, we can find a way around this. But none of them were 100% certain. And between you and I, they were probably less certain even than they gave the impression on camera or in their Twitter accounts, right? Because you don't know. Now, one thing that went against us was that Judge Mehta did not find, as I hoped he might, that that the original ban itself, or banning people, from entry, is unlawful. He found that the president has the right to do that, and that's why a lot of these other cases, non-DV, have basically been blocked. So Judge Mehta found that part of it is lawful. The president has quite a lot of scope to do whatever he wants, and the previous travel bans, which are still in place, based on the Muslim ban and travel ban 3.0, etc. All of those are still in effect, because they've been right up to the Supreme Court and found to be totally legal. The president can do that. That's what they were talking about with Hawaii, when they kept mentioning Hawaii in the hearings. Without finding the original action illegal, there isn't quite such an easy case to say, because the government did something illegal, they shouldn't get the benefit of that, because Trump wants to block immigrants. And so they were, Charles Cook, I think, put this very well. You can't benefit, if you're Trump, by blocking people illegally and then managing to get the benefit of blocking those people, right? So so if the first action was illegal, then the judge would be within his rights and within good law to say, okay, you're not going to benefit. We're going to take that benefit away from you, Trump. But because he's agreed that Trump has that power, it's not so easy to get from completely stripping away the timeline. It's going to be easier, still not 100% certain, but easier to set aside visas for named people, right? So back to Group 5, that means that you're unlikely, I would say, to benefit at this point, because you need so many things. You need KCC to suddenly say, yes, we had your documents all along, we had them since November of last year, and here you go, we're ready for scheduling. Not only that, but we've scheduled your interview at your embassy, and your embassy need to cooperate, and you've got to get a medical, the physician's report on time, etc. And all of that's got to happen by September 30th, and it's just going to be very hard. I'm not saying don't try, but you've got to be realistic. I don't think it's going to happen in a lot of cases. So the lawsuit actually says in one part of the lawsuit that it can benefit all cases. That doesn't mean it guarantees to benefit all cases. That means it can help all cases. All scenarios can be helped. But it's going to be easier on the named cases than non-named. Okay, so that covers the immediate next steps for people affected. And just to recap, take a little bit of step back. You're going to fight over the next few days, but you also need to understand that the communication has to happen to all of the embassies, the KCC staff. They're not all going to give good answers between, for the next couple of days. They'll give contradictory information. They're going to tell you that they don't know anything about the judge's order, or they might say, yeah, we know about the order, we don't care. They're going to say all sorts of silly things until they've been told what they're going to have to do, right? And even then, some will probably remain difficult. And what you have to do is document your conversations, your emails, etc., and you'll forward all of that to Charles Cook. He's asked for that. I hope I'm not mispronouncing his name, by the way. I've heard some people call it Cook, so that may be the correct pronunciation. So I apologise, Charles, if that's if I've been mangling your name all the time. Keep the documentation of what efforts you've made. If some embassy says we're not going to do that, after you sent them my suggested template and you explained your situation, etc., if somebody says no, we're still treating diversity as a standard case, right? Wait 2 or 3 days, wait a day or two perhaps, and try again, and if necessary try again after that, and keep going for a few more days until probably within a week or so every embassy should have been told, right? And document all of these steps that you take, and keep responding. And some of the embassies are going to get annoyed with you. I saw one response that said something like, as we told you in June, as we told you in April, as we told you blah blah blah. They're going to be irritated by you keep asking the same question until they realize that there's some merit in what you're asking now, right? So you're going to get some bad responses. Okay, suck it up and get prepared to fight and keep trying, right? And document what you've gone through, and then that will be provided to Charles to present to the judge as evidence that perhaps the government haven't been acting in good faith. Now, Judge Mehta is going to be more concerned about the named people than the non-named people, but even if you're not named, send that information through. But I would say don't flood Charles Cook with emails until you've gone through a number of steps, right, with the embassy. Keep all the evidence, send all the evidence later, but for a few days at least, take some common sense procedures, take a little bit of a breather, and just document what you're doing, but expect that it's going to take a few days for good answers to come through, right? And then on the 25th, what I'm hoping, and what the lawyers on our side are hoping, is that the presentation of information will show that either the government have acted in good faith and done all that they can do, and that's all the judge has told them to do. He's told them to do all that they can do, and that's what good faith means. Do your best efforts, all you can do, to satisfy these cases. And so if the government can show that they've done this and this and this and this, that's great. But if we can show, no, the embassies have been responding badly to this person and this person and this person, and they're still quoting the Schengen ban, and they're still quoting the proclamation itself, and they're still, KCC are not responding because they say they've moved on to DV2021. So if all of that evidence can be presented, then it's possible that the judge may say, you know what, we're going to give everybody more time, not just the named people. We're going to give everyone more time. It's possible. I'd say it's a small chance. Many of you always ask, give me a percentage chance, 0 to 100, what's the chance? I never do that. I do 0 or 100. I'm never going to give a 17% chance. How, I don't know what the chance is, but I would say it's a small chance that we get that. A small chance that we get an extension for everyone. Very small, right? I'll be pleasantly surprised if it happens, but I don't think it's likely. But anyway, we're going to use the best efforts. So on the 25th we'll present all that information, our lawyers will do all of that, and Judge Mehta will make his order, either for the named people, or for the non-named people, or for no one at all. If he's satisfied that everybody on the named list has been handled, he may say that's good enough, well done government, you've done your job. You know, maybe all he's prepared to do. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, next topic, and possibly the last topic because I'm tired. I'm just going to take more water. The air quality around here is unbelievably bad. We've got fires in California. I live in Northern California. There's fires everywhere, and so I can see smoke in the air. I can smell it, and I'm breathing it. So excuse me. Okay, so let me talk about the lawsuit. Curtis Morrison has offered to lodge another lawsuit on September 14th, I believe it is, and he's called it something 3.0. I wish he hadn't called it that, because it is his third lawsuit, but it also relates to travel ban 3.0, which is, you know, a horrible thing, and I hope Curtis Morrison's is going to be a great thing. So so what's this new lawsuit about, and should you participate? You have heard me talking about the fact that named people are going to be treated differently perhaps than non-named people, and so on the face of it, Curtis's suit on the 14th will be to try and get non-named people an opportunity to get an extension, and it may be for everybody, or again it may be for named people, right? Only for named people, and that's going to be up to the judge. The judge can look at that lawsuit and say, actually I'm just going to extend it for everybody, in which case you don't need to participate in that lawsuit to benefit. Or he could take the point of view that he's only going to help people who are named on the original cases. He may say that the September 14th thing is too late, or he may say, and this is what the gamble is, right? He may say, okay, I've got this new lawsuit on the 14th. I'm going to set aside visas for those people as well. So I'll extend the year for those people. It's not an extension of the year, but it's setting aside the visas for those people. He may do that, right? And it's a reasonable gamble. If you've got $500 to gamble, $500 is peanuts, frankly. Again, for a green card, your interview fees are $330. Your medical is probably $200 or $300 in most countries, and you'll pay that for every person. Whereas Curtis Morrison's lawsuit this time is $500, I believe, and it covers the family. You know, I mean, it's not a bad gamble if you have that money to gamble. So if you want to participate in that lawsuit and you have the money to gamble, why not? It might increase your chances. It may come to nothing, and that's the reality. It's not the same as the previous lawsuits, and it's not the same as you know, there's no guarantees, right? Curtis is a good man. He clearly is professionally and emotionally invested in all of this. I don't think for 1 minute he's doing this for financial gain, although he'll probably earn handsomely from it. That's not the point. I think he's doing this for the right reasons, and he'll do it whether there's 5 participants or 500. So, you know, the question is whether you want to be in that group of 5 or 500 to improve your chances or not. That's your decision. And there's no point in complaining about it later if you choose not to do it and those people get the benefit. That's your choice. And you're fully informed and you're adults, and now you can make your own decision. So go ahead and do that. You know, go ahead and make your decision is what I mean. And if you want to participate in that, great. You can, otherwise you can take your chances and see what happens on the 25th. And see what you can do by pushing the embassy yourself. And depending on which group of people you're in, by the way, group 1 or 2, if you're in group 1 or 2, then frankly you should be able to push your embassy and get that done anyway. That shouldn't need to be dragging on. But if for some reason your embassy is still unable to take action on your case, if you're in group 1 or 2, or if you're in group 3, and the embassy refused to take action on your case for whatever reason, because of COVID reasons or whatever, then maybe Curtis Morrison's lawsuit 3.0 is worth it to you. I don't know, you choose. It doesn't harm to try, and it's a few $100s. So as I say, if it were me, if I were in your position, I would do it. But that's me, and I could afford that money before. I lived in Europe. I was affluent. If you're coming from a poor country, I realize that's a lot of money, and that's just part of life, right? Okay, so that's Curtis's suit. I think I've covered all I want to cover tonight. I'm very concerned about all this for you. I'm hoping this is going to work out for as many of you as possible. I've worked hard on this. Other people have worked hard on this, and I'm hopeful that this is going to work out for many of you. But time will tell. We haven't got much time left, so we'll see what we can get through. If you're DV2021, please still reserve your, keep your patience. Try and reserve your needs. Just put them to one side for a few weeks, please. Let KCC deal with DV2020 people. Don't be contacting KCC to ask about your damn documents email when you've got Africa 50,000 and you won't be seen until July anyway. So for goodness sake, exercise some personal restraint and give this time to the people of DV2020, right? I think DV2022 people would do the same for you if you were in this position. So please do that for DV2020 people. So just leave KCC alone. You're not going anywhere anyway. So just hang on, okay? Okay, that's about all I've got for this evening. Have a great day. I'm going to take a couple of days to recover from my trip. I had a fantastic trip. I've bought a motorhome recently. I'll probably post some video or photos. So I've been camping and motorhoming throughout California countryside. It's been tremendous, but diversity visas have been on my mind all weekend. So it's been an interesting weekend, but emotional because of the harm being done to you guys. So anyway, if you want good information and you want to get up-to-date information, then make sure you subscribe to my channel, and I'll give you the best information I know how, and I'll help you fight in any way I can, etc. That's all I can say. And good luck to you all. All right. Okay. Bye-bye now.